The other day I showed you guys the two new to us project machines that I bought, and today we're over here working on the 934 Liebherr. All the parts have come in, so we're going to try to put the cab back on, and then we're going to try to get the grapple pulled off of the 924 with the bad engine and get it installed on this machine. Unfortunately, that grapple is like halfway in the scrap pile over there from where that machine broke down, and material has continued to come in, but we should be able to make it work. It shouldn't be too bad getting it out of there, but we are going to have to make a little bit of room to be able to get around it and get the lines loose and all that sort of thing. Anyways, let's take a quick look at the machine. I'll show you how we got it off the trailer because it was a little bit tricky, and then we will start working on it. We're back with day 2 of working on the new to us Liebherr 934. We ran out of daylight on Friday. We got the cab put in place. We've still got to put the control panel covers back on and some bolts in the cab, but it was dry, so we just want to make sure if it rained that we would be good to go. And then we got the grapple installed on the machine off of the 924 that had the blown engine. Once we got the grapple installed and the lines hooked up, we realized we had a pretty bad leak around one of the grapple lines. Basically what happened is as the grapple fell and folded under that machine that blew up, the grapple lines pulled very tight and essentially pulled the threads off of this fitting. Unfortunately, the threads inside here also look like they were damaged. We put a new fitting in with a washer and an O-ring, and it seems to have seated down fine. We're getting ready to fire the machine up for the first time, and hopefully we have no more leaks here. If we do, we're probably gonna have bigger problems and potentially have to thread this to a larger size or potentially even weld the fitting in, both of which are less than ideal. Well, as I finished making that last clip, we noticed there was still some fluid running down the side of the grapple here. It was slowly dripping from around that fitting, so we went ahead and pulled it back out to see what could have been causing it. The way this fitting was made compared to our old one is this one had this washer with the O-ring in the middle. The old one just had the O-ring underneath the fitting itself, so this washer was preventing the fitting from seating all the way down against the grapple. So we went ahead and pulled this off and we retightened it down. So hopefully this time we'll be ready to fire it up. Well, the good news is our fitting seems to be fixed and we are no longer leaking there. The grapple open and closes no problem. We got a few issues still yet to take care of before we can start using the machine. We got to bolt the cab down. The shell just sits around everything else and we didn't have the bolts with it. And then one of the stick cylinder pins is knocked all the way through towards the boom. You can see where they've welded a plate over it. We're gonna have to get that pin pulled back out, cut that plate off, and then put some sort of retainer in it. And then just inside the cab, you can see the control panels. All of that is basically exposed. All of these plastic panels were taken off during transport so that they didn't fly away or blow away. So luckily they did that, and we can put all that back together. One thing I noticed in here, other than the machine being completely filthy dirty, we'll have to wash it, but this adjustable wrench was laying behind one of the boom cylinders, and I'll bet you it used to be in the cab. It was probably under the seat or something, and then in transport that may have fell down and rode there. I mean, you can see how much dirt and stuff is caked on the back of that. So this thing's probably just scrap, but it made the journey from about 4 hours away. Sorry about the noise. I gotta leave the machine running. The batteries were dead or low, but basically we grabbed a handful of bolts. We knew they were either M12s or M10s. from the shop. They all turned out to be M12s, but essentially all of these little bolt holes all the way around the cab, we're just putting new bolts and washers. So you can see some of them we've already got started, and then we'll come through with the impact and just tighten them all down. I needed this pick because these bolt holes do go all the way down underneath the cab. The nuts are just welded, but some of this dirt is built up in those holes. I did clean in here before we could put the cab back on, but you can see how much dirt is just built up on the edge of this cab. I should have cleaned the cab as well. One of the problems we've noticed with this machine is when you try to drive it, the tracks are jumping from the sprockets being worn out. You can see they definitely have some wear. They're not the worst I've ever seen. They certainly could use to be replaced. We're probably not going to go that route. We're going to tighten the tracks. I think this one's in a little bit of a bind on the bottom, so we may have to pick this side of the machine up or roll the track around to get the tension that we want. But this side is completely slack. I mean, it's in really bad shape. We're going to pump some grease into it and hopefully pull a lot of that slack out. Shouldn't be a problem. We have on some of our other machines, the adjuster, the cylinder in there has gone bad and the seals don't work properly and the grease just pumps out. But if we can get the tracks tightened, this machine's never really going to travel a lot. It's just going to move, you know, maybe between a 50-foot radius or so. So it's not something that's going to be driving across job sites or across the yard all the time, but we definitely need it to reliably move. Here's to day 3 of hopefully getting this machine running today. We're on the home stretch. We just keep running out of daylight because we get a late start. We are here before noon today, so we should be able to get it knocked out. The project for today is to cut that plate off where the stick cylinder pin is and get that pin pulled out, get that plate welded to it and then reinstalled. You can see where the pin is protruding on the inside towards the boom, and that's because it's missing the collar where the retaining bolt is. This side you can see that the pin is not sticking out, but the collar is still there. So the proper way to fix it would be to get a collar and weld it in there and then put the bolt back through it, but there's not a lot of space to weld it in. So for today, we're just gonna cut that plate off, weld it to the pin, and then re-weld the plate back on until we can get the proper collar. Well guys, we got the pin pulled back where it needs to be. Now we just need to weld the plate on it, then tap it back in and weld the plate. Unfortunately, as you can see, it started downpouring on us, so we're gonna grab some lunch and hope this passes. So that was the first 15 minutes of runtime or so, and that thing ran phenomenally well. It is very strong. I'm just trying to get the pile cleaned up a bit. We got to get in here and scrape this up and make room for trucks to get in and out. We're going to try to get a bunch of this scrap loaded out. Then we're going to come and try to move this broken crane. But as I was getting towards the end of it running there, I started to notice a little bit of noise from the boom pins or the cylinder pins, like it needs some fresh grease. We actually forgot to grease it because we haven't serviced it yet. I wanted to run it and make sure that there wasn't any underlying issue that we were unaware of. So we're gonna get it greased up really good, run it for a little while longer, and then we're gonna give it a quick bath and then we're going to get it serviced and start using it every day. While I was digging through the pile, I found that aluminum deck mower, which can go in the irony aluminum pile. It's worth a little bit more, and that stainless steel sink. So those are upgrades that we always want to pull out of the scrap if we can. Well guys, the machine is running and working pretty well. We are going to use it for a couple days before we come back and try to put the finishing touches on it. The biggest major issues that we still know are the track tensioners are bad, or at least one of them is bad, and then the final drive on one side seems a little bit weak, or the track's getting in a bind, so we got to sort that out. It pulls most of the time, but then at one certain spot it won't pull very well, so we got to check into that a little bit and see if it has a weak final drive. It'll probably just always have a weak final drive. Also today we got rained on and we sort of are running out of time, so we didn't get to fully pressure wash the machine, which was the plan. We brought the hot water pressure washer with us, but instead we thought it would be more important to go ahead and grease the machine fully, run it for an hour or so, just to make sure that there weren't any underlying issues with it, and there isn't. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I'll give you some update videos here and there. The guys are going to run it all day tomorrow, and they're going to load a couple trucks, so if we run into any issues, I'll be sure to update you guys. But as always, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.